to increase the benefits, and of course, to increase benefit, they have to diminish the labor cost. And there are four main points of diminishing this labor cost. One is because of the imposition of high technology. Second, what they call the introduction of work flexibility. And I thought I had work flexibility, which means it's decreasing the labor force, and that depending on the needs of the production, and they call it adjustment of personal adjustment, and of course decreasing the salaries, and it doesn't relate to the production of every worker. The workers are producing more, but in turn they are earning much less. And this is what they call the flexibility of labor. The third is the point that is very well explained in the book Low-Wage Capitalism. It's in one of the first parts, and it's the division of production in segments, and then those segments are all around the world, in different shops around the world. What is that the maquiladoras? The picture here is, unfortunately, I don't know why this is so dark, but it's a room full of workers, one after the other, in a sewing machine, working in a maquiladora. And there are maquiladoras everywhere. This is a port in Honduras. They are usually in what is called a free zone. These maquiladoras, they don't pay electricity, they don't pay water, they don't pay any taxes. They hardly pay, in some countries they pay a little tariff. Most places don't pay anything. So it's a place where they assemble things, or they repair products, and it's only for export. This is not for the consumption of the people. This is not to produce, to help the country produce. It's just an assembly plant that is in different countries and using the cheapest labor. It's the most, it's slavery. It's, there was a quote I was looking, but I thought I brought it here. But, for example, in Mexico is the best example. I want to bring Mexico because the majority of the Latinos immigrants in this country are Mexicanos, and there has been the reason of, because of that, NAFTA, which I'll bring later on. But that's why I'm referring to the maquiladoras more, even though there are maquiladoras all over Central America, and particularly in Honduras, in Costa Rica, and so on. The ones that I'm referring also are in Mexico. Many of these workers, the vast majority of the workers in the maquiladoras are women, and it's also the feminization of poverty. They use women, they use youth, and they use children, and that they use it also to diminish the salaries, and they have no benefits. Many times they are by destajo, piecework, under horrible conditions, and sometimes they don't have time even to go to work. Fred mentioned of the case that the workers sitting here show the clock, and this is the case of the maquiladoras. They have worked sometimes extra hours, very little pay. They have no benefits, and there are no laws in the country that protects them because they are in this free zone that the transnational, particularly U.S. transnational, are the kings. And in Mexico, for example, 77% of these maquilas are in the border with the United States. So it's easier for the products to be taken, in trucks to the United States. So they don't even have to pay a lot in transportation. It's the cruelest example of exploitation right now, and using high technology. And of course, these industries are not related to the to the national economy. It has nothing, what they produce has nothing to do not have, because they do not use parts from the country. These are parts that come from all over the world. So they are not even paying products or raw materials from the country. On the contrary, they are just assembling something that has come from wherever. Malaysia, Puerto Rico, even the United States, and they are completely free for that. It's only 3, so I have to finish it. And so in most that they only use 2% of materials from the country, and of course they don't have to pay for water or any utilities. And it has been one of the industries that have increased most for the last 35 years. And just to give you an example of the price of what they earned, in 2002, a person, let's say a woman, because they are mostly women, a worst day, 8 hours, they would get $1.20 an hour. And that time, the minimum wage in the United States was $5.25, and the comparable job here paid between $8 and $10. So you can imagine the profits when they pay the woman $1.20 an hour. And these are the lowest salaries that are paid in industries. Quickly to go to, because these are women, and this is in Ciudad Juarez, Mexico. I think many of you have heard about the women's killing in Mexico, have been in the hundreds, and still the government doesn't find who is the culprit. And every day there is a woman killed in Ciudad Juarez. They have toured the United States calling attention to this. But what they know is that most of these assassinations are very close to the maquiladoras. Sometimes they are housed in very poor places, in very poor kind of shanty places that are close to the maquiladoras, so they don't have to travel a lot to go to the maquilas to work. And these are roads that are not paved. Sometimes there is no light. So many and the vast majority of the killings are related to the maquiladoras, and that's a demonstration of women in Ciudad Juarez calling for the government to reach safety. But this is not only the government of Mexico, it's also the transnational corporations who have the biggest obligation. NAFTA, one of the things that the United States, the transnationals and U.S. capitalism has benefited from from Latin America particularly is from the free trade agreements, and it is in 1994 it was signed between among Canada, the United States, and Mexico, the free trade agreement. And according to a quote in 2003 by the New York Times, says that it widened the gap between rich and poor in Mexico. You can imagine, if the Times says that, you can imagine how terrible the conditions have been for the people in Mexico. For example, in the first 6 years of NAFTA, 1,780,000 small farmers from Mexico had to abandon the farms. And of course, this has been an enormous increase of migration of Mexicanos, Mexican people to the United States. And the other thing is that there has been a loss of food sovereignty between 1994 and 2000. The increase of food imports of Mexico was almost 125%. So you can imagine they have for example, the corn, which is a staple food of Mexico, they used to cultivate it. Now, most of it is imported. And not only imported, but it's, Monsanto is transgenic, genetically altered seeds.